Hey, quick story for you here. We've seen it happen more than once here in the Twin Cities. A deal is moving along just fine, and then right before closing, a furnace issue, an electrical concern, or even a roofing question pops up. And suddenly things get stressful. That's exactly why we created our worry-free closing program at Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. We send a licensed technician out to check the furnace, AC, electrical safety, water heater, and water softener, coordinate a roof evaluation with a licensed roofing contractor, and provide a full report on all the home's major systems. We can do this during due diligence or even before a home is listed, so potential issues get caught early. If you're a realtor or you're buying or selling a home, there's a simple way to keep things smooth. Twin City Heating, Air, Electric, built here, stays here.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today's guest has a story that's rooted right here in Minneapolis. It shaped how he shows up in business today. I've got Mike Elwell with Ancona Title and Escrow joining us. Mike comes from a family behind Totino's. His grandmother is Rose Totino, so he grew up in the restaurant world, learning service and hard work firsthand. He later stepped out to manage an Applebee's, and that's where he realized he wanted something different, which led him to the title industry. Now Mike's built a reputation around relationships, consistency, and showing up, especially through his Monday Morning with Mike series. And what makes his role so interesting, he's been at closing tables where everything either comes together or falls apart. So today we're diving into what really happens behind the scenes, where deals can go wrong, and how to move through the process with confidence. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Wymond. Appreciate it.
Oh, this is good times because I remember going to Totino's in Minneapolis.
Yeah, Northeast Minneapolis.
Yeah, yep. And things have changed so much. But you grew up in Fridley, right?
I grew up in Fridley. Yeah.
What was that like growing up in Fridley?
Yeah, it was great. If you it was the old proverbial, Gen X growing up in the 80s was fantastic. We lived over by Moore Lake off of Central Avenue there. Wonderful neighborhood. I mean, full of kids around the block. So all we did is, go out in the morning and left the house and then played all day, right? And played with a bunch of friends, sports, big time. It was so much fun. So it was a really good time growing up in a neighborhood like that. So it was awesome. Everybody knew each other. It was a sense of community, and it was a fantastic childhood.
So I always wondered about people that lived in that area right by Moore Lake.
Yeah.
Because in the 80s and 70s, they had those 3 big screens for the drive-in.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's where Medtronics is, I
the
think,
Hunter
now.
Twin. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, the Hunter Twin.
Yes. And would you sneak in there and, be able to catch some movies?
Well, I didn't sneak in there, but my friend, I just knew of a friend's, that's why they had the back in the, remember the cars were much bigger in the late 70s, right? So that trunk space, fit about 8 to 10 kids in that. So I never really partook in that or taken that, but yeah, we used to have fun over at that Hunter Twin. It was blast. I lived right by there, so yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was really cool. And back then, I mean, there's no more drive-ins anymore, but I just remember driving by off of that 694 loop and ooh, what's on the screen, right? What are they playing today,
That brings
right?
back a lot of good memories, yeah, absolutely.
The other thing we did was, and I don't know if you did that because Heights Theater was probably pretty popular for you guys in Fridley, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Go there.
Yeah.
And those old movie theaters, they had to have the exits. I just remember going to the Hopkins Theater.
Yep.
It's gone now, and it's way past statute of limitations. I just remember we'd have 2 people go in and buy tickets.
Yep.
And then they would run down to the exit door, open it up, and 50 kids would come in.
Yep. Remember those?
To catch a free movie.
That's pretty funny. Yeah.
Fridley was. So you weren't a Fridley Tiger, though. You actually went to.
Yeah, I went to Totino Grace High School. Yep. I ended up graduating there in 1988, so I went all 4 years of high school at Grace. And then before that, I went to St. John the Baptist over in New Brighton.
Okay.
So, yeah. So high school experience was fantastic, met a lot of great friends there and still in contact with them today. So
having the Totino name,
did
you get any discount for going to the school?
I don't think so.
No.
In fact, I probably got more of a microscope on me at the school than anything else. But I don't know that to be fact. But yeah, I mean, it was different, you know. But I think my friends knew me for who I am and stuff. And yeah, being part of that family was a real honor and a blessing, you know, to have grandparents such as Rose and Jim Totino.
The Elwells were expected to like donate double.
Yeah, right. I don't think that was going to be the case. No, my grandmother, they were amazing. My grandmother and grandfather, they really helped out a lot of communities and a lot of Catholic charities and everything else. And it wasn't just Totino Grace that they gave money to; they gave to the other Catholic schools as well. So,
They did.
Yeah. It wasn't just one isolated school. No, they gave a lot, and they did a tremendous job in that with the Catholic schools and such as like Benilde, St. Margaret, et cetera. So.
Yeah, I gotta admit, you know, my dad owned a restaurant on 14th and Nicollet back in the day.
See how I smile when you say the restaurant.
Yeah, we kind of miss that sometimes, and we didn't miss it when we left it.
Yep.
But what was really cool was, so kind of our little tie-in, you and I, like, I remember in the 70s when we would get done at my dad's restaurant or whatever, or even on a Sunday, we would actually make a point to go to Totino's every once in a while for dinner. And I remember the square pizzas.
Yep.
That was awesome. And then they had like the number 1, number 2, or whatever.
The special 1, special 2.
Yeah.
Well,
and
good
then,
memory, Wymond.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then what was really cool with the special was you got a little dish of Spumoni ice cream.
Spumoni ice cream. That's, yep.
And you guys got it from Sonny's.
Sonny's ice cream. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Sonny's ice cream.
They moved off of like, I want to say 38th and like Lindale now, somewhere down there.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
I used to go pick that up, and I knew the owner, Sonny.
Yeah.
He was an older gentleman, but when he used to deliver the ice cream when I worked there, we used to sit and have conversations for, you know, half an hour, 40 minutes. He was he was a wonderful man.
Oh,
Really the nicest man you'd ever want to meet. He was so
I think
fantastic.
his son took it over.
Yeah, his son took it over.
Yeah. I think we did this was like 20 years ago. I did some refrigeration work for them.
Yeah.
When they were doing a remodel over there.
That brings back a lot of memories. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. And Totino is just so awesome too. I know my sister, my little sister Vonnie, who ended up going to Berkeley. We grew up here.
Yep.
And she went to Berkeley. But one of the first things that she always got off the plane when she came back to visit, White Castle and Totino's.
That's right across the street. Yep. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, I worked there for many years, and my brother Steve had owned the restaurant. He bought it from my grandmother in 1988, and I worked there and helped him out with the general managing and did catering and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I mean, there must have been 4 generations of families, and so it was big. People would go out of their way to come to the restaurant, and it was for the food. But a lot of it was for the memories too. I mean, people. I mean, if you think about it, over a 4-generation period, people were dating there. They got married there. They had family there, and then unfortunately, they passed away, and people would come in and honor them and say, "Hey, my dad loved Totino's, and this is where he'd want to come." So it was a real honor to be able to work for. Or for the restaurant, family business.
Be a part of it.
People had some great stories. So
yeah, and the one thing that was really cool is you guys honored your grandma with a big picture of her.
Yep.
I mean, up till the day it closed, and then it reopened, didn't it? Up in
Mounds View. Yeah, Mounds View.
Yeah.
I wasn't working there at the time, but yeah, I think that opened up and it went till maybe 2010, 11, or 12 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Yeah. But, I know I was in the title insurance business. The title insurance business in 2012, we used to go over there for lunch. So, so it was about that time that opened up in Mounds View. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the one thing I remember, great spaghetti sauce. You still have the recipe?
I don't have the recipe,
No.
but my brother still has the recipe.
Okay.
So he makes it a little bit on, for himself. But no, we don't have the recipes. We're not, nothing like that anymore, But people do miss the food. I can tell you that. Yeah, I get people coming up to me periodically and saying, "Oh man, I miss Totino's. I could go for some cheese raviolis." Or the cheese raviolis are really good. And the food was fantastic. So, but it's fun. Yeah, it was a great time to. And I worked there all through my 20s, pretty much until I was almost 30 years of age. So yeah, it was fun. I really enjoyed it. I love the restaurant business. It was fun.
enjoyed it, but not at the time. I actually did a lot of the cooking, and then I became a bartender. My dad owned a restaurant bar at the later years, and then back to cooking because my dad bought a place out in St. Paul called Jerry's Drive-In, which was another classic. It was like opened in '59. It was a drive-in. By the time we got there, they had removed the drive-in, but everybody came for the chicken. If you talk to people, that was back in the day on that east side of St. Paul. If you can get fried chicken, you go to Jerry's for fried chicken, right? And the secret recipe was really fry crisp.
Right, yeah.
And make sure you change the oil with consistency, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of great restaurants back at that time, because I know Totino was started in 1951. Yeah. So, my grandparents started. And actually, that started as just a takeout. It wasn't a restaurant at that point. It was a takeout. Well, but everybody would grab the pizzas, and then they would sit on the floor and have the pizzas right there. So everybody was like, hey, maybe you should start a restaurant with some tables and chairs, and that's kind of how it went. So, but that 1951, 1959, that's there was some good legacies around Northeast Minneapolis with restaurants.
Well, even just down that whole road, people don't realize how much history Minneapolis, and you're not that far off of Hennepin.
Right.
I got to admit, I just got done reading the book, Augie's Secret. And I don't know if you know a little bit about a guy named Augie Ratner. He owned like Augie's Strip Club, but it was a cabaret and theater back in the 40s and 50s.
I remember. I heard that. Yep.
And I guess Augie was, I guess they nicknamed him the mayor of Hennepin Avenue, basically.
Right.
But he knew everybody and anybody, right? Yep. And I'm sure our parents kind of was tied in. There's a lot of good restaurant Minnesota history.
There is. Yep, there is.
So, working at Totino's for a while, what made you step away from the family restaurant world, and then go into Applebee's?
I wanted to see what the restaurant world was like outside of the family business, and so I decided to take a career path to Applebee's. Actually went into the corporate side of things. So I went through their training and everything else, and so I ended up becoming a manager over at the White Bear Lake Applebee's, and that was probably back in the late '90s. Okay. So '98, somewhere in there.
And then at some point, you kind of went into title.
Yeah, well, I started off as actually a mortgage originator, so loan officer. So I can remember this. I was sitting in the manager's office, right, doing the final till in the paperwork back at that, about 1:00 in the morning. And I just realized, man, I got to do something different. That was probably one of the, I love the restaurant industry, but at that point, it was probably one of the lowest points of my life. It was just like, I got to find something a little bit different. I wanted a new challenge. And it was just, after being in the restaurant industry for 15, 16 years, I started when I was 14. I needed something different. So my brother called me because he knew he was having a hard time. And my wife actually called my brother and said, hey, you better talk to Mike. He's looking for a change, and he needs some encouragement. And he said, why don't you get in the mortgage business? And I said, man, I don't know anything about mortgages. Plus, I don't have a degree. He just kind of, back at that point, he just kind of laughed for 5 minutes on the phone. He goes, you don't need a degree to go into the mortgages. So I said, our friend was starting a mortgage company, or started a mortgage company. It was fairly new. And he said, why don't you contact him and see if he can, think about getting in there. So, and I made the move. I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So at that point of wanting to get into title, like I know you said, I guess I don't need education. What attracted you to getting into title?
In the title? Well, when I did the origination, I did that for about 8, 9, 10 years. And then I opened up a consulting and training firm that did the required education for mortgage professionals back in 2008. At that point, March 1st of 2008, they needed in order to keep their license, they needed 15 hours of credit. So I started a company called MinPro with my business partner, Jim. And so after 2008, do you remember 2008?
Yeah,
the housing crisis?
Housing crisis. Yep.
Yeah,
it wasn't good for the heating and air industry either.
Right. Yeah, it didn't work out for a lot of people in 2008. But we made it through, and I just had a title company owner just called me up and asked me if we were helping him with a class to get accredited, and he asked if I knew of anybody that wanted to get in the title business, and I said sure. So I'll give it back, and that was it. And that's how I got in the title business back in 2009.
And so you're really well versed in that industry, the mortgage right down to the title.
Mm-hmm.
For someone who's never bought or sold a home, what does a title company actually do behind the scenes? Because I think sometimes I remember when I was younger, I'd be like, hey, can you help me get a mortgage? Oh, no, I'm title. And then sometimes I'm sure mortgage people get the same thing. I need to close. Yeah. What I do.
Well, when I go around and people say, what do you do for a living? I said, well, I do title. Well, I say I help people actually protect their vested interest in their property and their equitable position, But they're like, what does that mean? Well, I'm in title insurance. And they're like, what? Title what? So not a lot of people know about it. Right. And so what we do is work with the loan officer and realtor, and on the back end of things, our biggest thing is when you're buying that house, we want to make sure have your vested interest, your name is on that title, right? Nobody else has title interest to that property. And as you build equity over the period of time, we want to protect that equitable position from anybody trying to come back and claim ownership. Or now, I don't know if you've ever heard the Title Lock or any of these companies, but people can actually electronically steal your deed, and that's what they try to do in fraud. We protect that. Our enhanced owner's policy will protect that. So if somebody's looking to buy a home, obviously financing is so important and the real estate is so important, but I also think the title insurance is extremely important. It's a one-time policy premium for as long as you live there. And so it's one of the biggest it's the biggest protection of one of your biggest investments in your life. So it's an important piece of it. But most people get directed by a loan officer or realtor, but it's the consumer's ultimate choice on who they want to use title, And so, but we certainly encourage it for sure.
Yeah, I know it's, after studying a little bit about buying a few properties, and obviously I've done a couple commercial properties with you.
Appreciate that.
One of the things is it's so important to have all your, hate to say it, the I's dotted and your T's crossed, right?
Yep.
Like making sure the right language is in there.
Correct.
And things like that, because when you walk away from that table and the other side can go, wait a second here, that could be expensive.
It could be expensive, especially if you don't have owner's title insurance policy, or you'd have to get attorneys involved if there was a dispute.
Yeah.
And so, we've had people where, unfortunately, they were married and they've been married for 30 years. The problem is one lives here in Minnesota and the other one lives in Florida. They just never decided to get the divorce because they were only together for like a couple of years. Now, that person, maybe it's the husband, inherits a home. Because they didn't go through that divorce process, the wife still has marital rights to that said property and just have to sign off on it. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to looking at title, because we do a search. So we're looking at the history of that property. We are going back, maybe 30 years and seeing who owned what at what time, and if it's been cleared out and those mortgages have been cleared, because we certainly don't want anybody to come in and claim a lien against that property, right?
Yeah,
So,
and that's so simple to do or miss. If
Right.
somebody did 1984, somebody did a remodel and one contractor didn't get paid, and now the son is like, hey, that's still on a lien. We want our money, and the house was sold 2 years ago.
Yep.
That becomes a big mess.
Yeah, especially new construction.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people working on that project, and people are getting paid. And if something doesn't go right, they can put a mechanical lien against the property, and then you got to deal with all that. So, but that's it's kind of what title insurance protects it. So, yeah.
What's the deal that you've seen that kind of that was close to being at the closing table, then fell apart at the last second? Do you have any?
Yeah, for us, at that point, it doesn't. It's not really about the title issue that pops up. I'm a former mortgage originator, right?
Yeah.
And so what I used to tell people is, when you're going through a mortgage, you eat, live, and don't do anything else, right? And work, keep your job, right?
Right.
Yep. I've seen it at a table where we were at the closing table and we had to stop the closing. And here's why. the person went out and bought a pickup truck the day before, a brand new pickup truck. And in that case, so the payment was $500-$600 a month. Threw them out of qualification. We had to stop the closing there because they didn't qualify.
Because it didn't
Qualify. Yep. And so that was kind of on the mortgage side of things. On title, before closing, we usually figure this out, but there may be a legal description that has an issue, right? Yeah. Or there may be, vested interest issues and stuff like that. So, but hopefully we're ahead of the game to be able to figure that out before we get to the closing table. So,
well, what's really interesting when you say that, and that's kind of why I asked the question a little bit, the one thing that's been popping up lately from what I'm hearing, and we're trying to cover that need, is the electrical panel. All of a sudden, they can't insure it when they get to the closing table, or a week before closing, they're like, the insurance company is not going to insure the electrical panel because it's a Federated Pacific or one of the ones that are on the list for fires, right? Roofing now has been a big one for you guys
for the mortgage side. For sure. The roofing has been a challenge for sure.
Because the last few years here, they're kind of coming to the table, and all of a sudden the insurance comes back and says, like, we can't insure it, or we can only insure it for 20%, and now it needs a new roof. Right before closing.
Absolutely.
And they got to figure out how to incorporate that in there.
Well, and funny you mentioned that, because I've been at the table several times where all of a sudden they're doing the walkthrough the day of, and I get a call saying we can't close because the basement's flooded.
Interesting.
So something went on there and the basement flooded, or there's situations where the person wasn't fully moved out. So we had to adjust the closing and everything else, and those are things that happen more on the real estate side, but the day of, those are some of the things that can happen day of. Yeah. So, and we deal with a lot of money. Our role in the transaction as being a title company or an escrow company, we handle all the money. So the money comes flowing all in from from the lender and everything else. And then we have to disperse all the funds too as well. So, people come in and with, a cashier's check, and all of a sudden we're going to collect that cashier's check, and we notice the bank never signed it. And so then they have to go back and get it signed, and then all of a sudden, or the wiring situation. Wire is a major big issue with wire fraud going on and people trying to hijack wires and stuff like that. So we have so there's a lot of security that goes with it too.
That's crazy how the bad guys really figure out those little nuances to really just steal people's money, right? Go work for a living, for crying out loud, right?
It kind of one up, and everything gets more sophisticated. So we have security protocols in place. We use a third-party service and certified that verifies these wires that are going to go out, so the right people are getting the right wire. Because that's a big thing. If you send the wire to the wrong place, I mean, that's a huge issue.
Yeah.
And so, but it's challenging, but we're collecting all the monies and making sure that we disperse, because we're collecting all the monies in, and then we want to get down to a zero balance and balance out, right? Because everybody's been paid. And so we're holding money, we're making sure we're clearing title, we're making sure that this person has the vested interest in that property, and so we're trying to protect that buyer that's coming in. So
that back end is hard, because I know, I gotta admit, being in this industry, right? We've actually, one of the questions I did have for you is, the HVAC at the last second, the walkthrough, right?
Yeah.
Where somebody comes in, they're going, finally at the last second, they're like, it does need new heating and air system, right?
Yep.
So, one, I know that I've worked with your company before where, not on my closing, but somebody else's closing, where we'll come and collect the check right at closing.
Yep.
And you guys have really been able to do that at a really high level, which was really cool.
Yeah, what we do, if that's an issue, we'll make sure we'll put money in escrows if it's from the seller, and then we'll then once the work is complete, then you get we get lien waiver, you get your money, right? And so then if you got the lien waiver, we got the lien waiver, you're not going to put a mechanical lien against that property. Yeah,
and that's what good title companies do. They make sure that,
on that
everybody's protected.
We're protected, and we do new construction at Ancona Title. We have a dedicated new construction department, and they that's all they do is they do disbursements, and priority pictures and making sure that the contractors are getting paid and or who's going to pay them, that we're getting lien waivers. Yeah, it's extremely important. But we see that a lot. We see the last minute escrows too, like they needed to repair something or whatever, and it was $5,000, and we'll put in 1.5 times there. So we'll put in whatever 6,000 or 7,000 in escrows until the work is complete. We have to protect that buyer.
I've seen that happen.
Yep.
We've experienced it, and it's a great way to make sure things get done.
Yep.
And working with I hate to say it, patting ourselves on the back, working with a good contractor is huge to make sure that gets done, so that because you guys don't want to hang on to that money. You just want to make sure it gets dispersed.
We want to make sure it gets dispersed and everybody gets paid. And more importantly, we want to make sure there's no mechanic lien against that property.
Yeah. How often do you see that happening with HVAC, Escrow, or electrical?
I haven't seen, a few times here and there, but I haven't seen it in my closings. And I've closed over probably, several hundred or 1,000 closings, but I see it once in a while.
But it's important.
But it's important. It's very important. But things do happen like that. Yeah.
Do you think it helps to have so we started this closing, worry-free closing program where we bring in a roofer and electrical, because we have the electrical trade.
Sure.
I partner up with a roofer.
Yep.
And then, of course, we can look at the HVAC, because that's a big part. The whole system is about anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 now, right?
Yep,
Where it
correct.
used to be 10. But how important do you think it is for a seller to be proactive on that side of it?
I think it's a big time. They have to fill out that seller disclosure information, right? But I think it's really important to be proactive. And here's the proactive part of it. I worked with you. You repaired my water heater and stuff. Now I have all that information set aside in a file, so I know how the date, the when it was installed, and everything else. But they have to. The seller should be proactive in making sure all the mechanical is working. Making sure that it's up, in running order before they sell that property.
Yeah.
And it's really important, especially with the roofing and everything else. But you have to negotiate that, in the contract if there's an issue with the roofing.
Yeah. And I don't think everybody gets so afraid of the disclosure, I think, sometimes as a seller. And I'm not saying that it's not important, because I think it is. You can't poo-poo it. But I also think that a disclosure really is something like, it works, it's fine. If it's dangerous, you got to disclose that. But if it's normal wear and tear, it's not something you really... The disclosure you need to make is like on a roof, it's 14 years old. Or it's 26 years old. That's the disclosure you have to make. You don't have to disclose it's got all these little dings on the roof.
Right.
And I think that's where sellers kind of get a little hung up, I don't want to tell them everything, because then they're going to make me do it. I don't think that always happens. You can just negotiate that out. And at least before you hire, get the title company involved, and the next thing you know, you're trying to close this thing. You're already you bought your other house, and now your closing is delayed because you didn't know about something.
Yeah, and I've been in this business for 26 years, and I have never been a realtor. But it's those are some of the things that. But for me personally, if I were to go to sell my house, I wanted to make sure that everything is in working order, right? Because once I sell that house, I don't want any issues or problems, So I'm going to be honest and open to the blemishes against the property, or if there was a leak somewhere or something of that nature, because I certainly don't want to. I want to fully disclose, because I certainly don't want that to come back.
I always think of the line from. Man, now my wife is gonna go, you're an idiot. But it was either Benjamin Franklin or Confucius said, well, what a tangled web we weave when we set out to deceive, right? You don't want to deceive people, especially on the sale of a house. And that's huge. And part of the thing is, do your due diligence as the buyer, and then as the seller, make sure you are disclosing the stuff that you have to disclose, whatever age it is. I don't feel like you have to tell them like the thing kind of fires off and on. It doesn't start up every time, but it starts up. As long as the inspection is in there and that they've looked at it, that you've had a professional look at.
Yeah, the inspection is important.
It's huge.
Yep, that's huge. And a lot of these inspectors maybe can sniff that out too and figure it out and look at that. But inspection is important for sure. And it's all the fact through that the real estate transaction is there's a lot of moving parts. right? And it takes some time to make sure everything goes according to the contract and getting it to the closing table.
I strongly agree with you. Their homeowners should be a little more proactive in making sure that
I can speak for myself for sure. It just be more proactive in looking at just the minor things. The mechanical stuff and making sure that the electrical works and you're not shorting out somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Or an electrical outlet is not tripping. What is it? A CGI that's tripping all the time. That's going to be an issue. So
the ground
just
fault.
want to, once
GFI.
over. Plenty of time too. If you decide to sell, you can work on those over a period of time.
Yeah.
Make sure, because I know for myself again, and I keep repeating myself, I just want to be able to sell that house and leave it there.
Yeah.
Right? And let the buyers enjoy it, and then whatever comes up. Sometimes you can't help the mechanical or the furnace breaking down a month later. That's
part of life, right?
That's just what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And so, but
yeah. But you can certainly mitigate some of that by just knowing, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Proactive. Yep.
Knowledge is power. I think that's the huge part, right?
Proactive. Yep.
And that's why I was saying, like, the disclosure should be scary for people. And I think it does that to some sellers. Like, oh, do I want to disclose? Do I want to know to disclose? No, you want to know.
You gotta have to. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to disclose like little blemishes, but you have to disclose whether it works or not. And and if it doesn't sell, you still got to.
If there's a shower leaking and it's going down on the ceiling, you got to disclose that.
Yeah.
So
and you got to fix it anyway.
Yeah.
You should fix it.
Exactly.
I'd feel guilty if I knew something was like that.
Right.
Next thing
you and I are probably the same.
Yeah.
There's no way. I'd want to make sure everything's tip top shape before when I sign. They sign the closing and make sure that I can walk away and enjoy my new home if I'm buying a new home, right? Without having the worry or the anxiety of having someone contact me 2 months later and say, well, this didn't work. Right?
Right.
I mean, that's just,
you don't want to be
I
that used car
want to move
sales.
on. But by that time, I'm just,
You don't want to be that used car sales feeling,
right,
do you?
yeah.
Just doesn't feel good looking in the mirror every day.
Yeah. Right.
I'm gonna kind of take a little zigzag because this you are an amazing relationship builder.
Thank you.
You are. That's your whole niche. I met you through networking.
Yep.
And I've learned what makes someone go into a referral partner in your world.
Yeah, for me, a good referral for me is like a realtor or loan officer for sure. Those are my top two referral partners. But I think it's really like with Ancona Title, I teach a class called the Power of Question-Based Selling. And so when I'll sit down with a realtor or loan officer, I'll only ask them a few different questions in my question-based selling. And it's basically, what frustrates you about the title industry? What's important to you? And it's really about fulfilling their, it's kind of emotional based selling, because what frustrates them, like, hey, if I could get my title commitment in less than 2 weeks, I'd use that. Well, we pull our title commitments in 4 to 8 hours or less, but if I'm listening to their needs and fulfilling my products and services to fill their needs that they have and finding a solution to their needs. Yeah, that's makes a really good referral partner, right? Yeah. And it's being on top of things. And it's being, there's communication, obviously, there's flexibility, there's being flexibility and doing things right in the first time. But yeah, building relationships is built on trust, but by asking questions when you first meet the clients, or even when you have a strong relationship, questions lead to conversations, right? Yeah. And that builds trust. Because we're having more of a conversation than me trying to go out and sell a loan officer or realtor. We live in a value that I have as a give, grow, gratitude attitude, right? I'm gonna give a little bit, so you know who I am, what I do well, and the value that I can bring to that relationship. So if that answers your question, that makes a perfect referral partner, right? And then loan officers, realtors, attorneys are really good, builders for sure. So those are the things that that make a good referral partner. Yeah,
it goes back to trust, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty much. And I love how you frame that, like having good referral partners that ask great questions.
Yeah, ask great questions. And the real power, so that I have the power of question-based selling. And the real power of question-based selling is not actually asking the question. The real power in the question-based selling is actually listening.
I love that.
the listening piece of it, because have you ever been in a sales meeting before?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden somebody sits down and says, you've been in a business to business meeting, for example, realtor or a loan officer, and the loan officer sits down and all they do is they start talking about their products and services, right? Have a 30-year fix, and what do you think happens in that first 5 or 6, 7 seconds?
Well, for me,
Yeah.
I'm falling asleep.
Yeah,
already.
yeah, you're already-
My eyes are glossing over.
Wyman's thinking about, I got to go home and do this, and I'm hoping to do this. But instead, if I approached you and asked you a question, what's really important to you when it comes to title, or what frustrates you when it comes to title? Then I set it up to the session of where they can tell me what their frustrations are. If I could get us, not go through hoops for scheduling. But building that trust is asking those questions and having the conversations. And listening is the most important thing.
Yeah. And, it's interesting that you say that also, because I just heard Rachel Edwards speak, and she talks a little about sales and building teams.
Yep.
And the one thing that kind of stuck in my mind is when you go into those meetings of sales, curiosity, always bring the questions with curiosity.
Yeah.
And, you might know it already, but you have to really truly be curious, because that's what helps you listen.
Yeah, that's what helps you listen. I mean, the biggest thing for me, when I'm asking the questions, I have all these products and services that I can deliver, right? And I can proverbially put on the table, right? So I'm going to ask the questions and listen, because going back to that story, if hey, the loan officer, if I could find a title company that could pull the title commitment in less than 2 weeks, well, we pull our title commitments in 48 hours or less. He was like, that's it. I'm going to try you guys out. I'm going to use you, because that's a big hot, an issue for me.
Right.
And so, funny story to that, he used us, and then he got he sent his title order in, and then he called me and he said, "Hey, Elwell," I said, "You lied to me." I said, "Well, we just met. I mean, what did I lie about?" And he goes, "You told me 48 hours or less. You didn't tell me 42 minutes or less." So he got his title commitment fairly quickly, and it was there. And so, but that was a great story. But all I had to do was listen to that one concern, right?
Right.
And so, when I heard that, I was like, "This is what I have," and that was enough. You don't have to oversell yourself either, right?
Yeah.
Listen, and you might only have to. That person might talk for 15, 20 minutes. You might hear the emotional needs that they have. And you might be able to fulfill it with one product, and that's it.
I feel like the biggest part of the sales execution is really finding their pain point, and the way you find their pain point is asking questions with real, genuine curiosity.
Yeah, like Twin Cities Heating and Air, you could ask the client, have you had your furnace repaired? Yeah. Well, what frustrated you about that whole process? If there was anything that frustrated it about you, that process, or what did you like about it? Because you have all these products and services that you can deliver. You have these monthly or the tune-ups, yearly tune-ups, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I just ask and listen. And if it's a loan officer, somebody say, "Well, have you been through this process before for origination?" Yes. Well, before we even get started, what did you learn through that, or what frustrated you, or what things would you do differently?
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of getting the needs of what people pain points are, so then you can service that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes hard for us because, like, you, title, me, heating and air equipment,
Yep.
Scott Bondahar, copiers,
Yep.
right? I mean, you got to admit, we have some really boring stuff that we actually sell, right? Our product is not truly exciting. It's not like going out and buying a set of golf clubs or new fishing equipment, right?
No.
And your pain point on fishing equipment is like, it's just the test lines. I got to get something that I'm going to catch a shark
So
with,
true.
right?
Yep.
And so there's not any excitement there. But I feel like you're hitting something right on the head there.
Yeah.
Find out what their pain point is with the boring stuff.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's not as boring if something goes wrong.
Right. Exactly.
Because it gets pretty exciting quickly.
Yeah,
And
right.
not always a good exciting.
No, and that's good, exciting. And it's setting expectations, too, so you understand what these, like, for example, one question I'd always ask is, how would you like to be communicated with? Is it by text? Is it by phone? Is it by email? Right?
Yeah.
Some people just don't like to be contacted by text. So I'm setting the expectation, the communication style that's going to best fit, for the customer. Right. And sometimes, they're texting me again, and text can be like, can't get my fingers. I'm a Gen Xer. I'm a Gen Xer, so it's like 1, 2, 3. I don't know. I mean, so just call me because we can settle a call in like 3 minutes and then we'd be done with it, right?
Yeah.
And so what's the Gen X in us,
Yes.
So anyways, it's finding that pain point and really servicing. But people want trust. People want efficiencies. They want things to get done right away. Most importantly, when it comes to title, and I'm at the closing table, they want to just make sure that their customers walk out of there with a really, really good experience, and that we explain the documents, not in in detail, but yet they can understand it while they're walking out, because that's the last thing they're going to see. That buyer or that seller is at the closing table.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we send that person off with a good experience that's going to be reflective of the realtor and the loan officer.
It really is a good way to do your business, because I feel like people really don't, at the end of the day, I don't think people remember exactly how much they paid for something.
Yeah.
They might have a general idea, cheap or expensive.
Right.
But it's the experience that you give them.
Yeah.
It's the experience we give them
Yep.
in heating air. And again, boring stuff, but even Scott Vonhar, right?
Yeah.
It's the experience you give them for selling, bringing in copiers, right?
I sell 2 insurance policies: a lender's policy, and an owner's title insurance policy. That's it, and closing services.
Right.
We do escrow. Yeah. So you're
It's
right.
the experience.
I don't think
around
anybody
that.
sits around and just loves listening to reading copier contracts, right? Or it's just it's different.
Sorry, Scott.
Yeah,
no
sorry,
offense.
Scott. No offense.
we love Scott.
Yeah, we got to have. Hey, and who loves more copiers than I do than a title company?
That's a
right.
good
I mean,
point.
that's the biggest thing that we do is we do a lot of copying. So I applaud Scott for what he does, because if those copiers go down, we go down.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we need that paper to actually have people sign. So. Kudos to Scott. That's all I want to say. So kudos
all
to
I
Scott.
know is when I've sat at every closing table, you guys kill about a half a tree every time.
Paper and pens. That's what we use. That's our tools. Paper and pens, right? Yeah.
Let's talking about experience. The one thing that I love the experience that I've with you that you've started doing is Monday morning with Mike.
Oh yeah.
What inspired you to start Monday morning with Mike, and did you expect it to turn out to what it is like right now?
I just start. I mean, I'm on my 14th episode, but I'm
Okay.
like, so we're just started. And I think I know it's going pretty well. I mean, people talk about it and say, it's really really good stuff. And I don't know how I came up with it. It was just weird. It was just like, you know what? I'm going to start. I've always wanted to start a podcast, and I did have a podcast for a very, very short period of time. I had 4 episodes that were like 40 minutes, but I said I want to do something quick and easy so that I can talk about Ancona title, not just what we do technically, but help realtors and loan officers grow their business, or any salesperson to grow their business. So I sat there one day and I just said, what about Monday morning? It kind of came up as a joke between a couple people in ours. I said, well, I'm going to do a session on Monday morning with Mike. And they're like, that's a great idea. So I cut my first episode, and here we are, 14 episodes later. So I'm going to continue to do it. And I love doing it. It's really fun because I get to talk about, framing your day, or, power question-based planning or power question-based selling to help people grow their business. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I love the one you talked about where the intentionality, right? Like,
Yes.
Of just like in the morning, I'm going to bring up Ben Bina, because one of my favorite quotes that he had sitting in your seat was, what you put out in the morning is what you're going to get all day. If
That's
you
right.
want to put out that you're angry and the world's going to be angry at you, that's what you're going to get all day long. Yep. But if you put out like positivity and the energy to bring that back,
Yep.
that's also what you're going to see all day.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's one of those things that by being intentional, I love that.
It's a concept I came up with called framing the day, and it's being very intentional about your mornings. I'm an early riser. I mean, some people don't like the morning, but I love the morning. I usually get up around 4:30. There's so many things that you can do. I ended up reading, but I don't grab my phone. I used to do that, and I used to grab my phone, and the first thing I would do is check the news and check this and stuff. Don't check the news, because if you check the news, you're going to wake up with more likely maybe an attitude of what the world is doing,
Yeah.
So I put that aside, and it's all about reading books, or it's all about personal development at that time. Because framing the day, is, I mean, I came up with that concept because there was a philosopher say that if you're depressed, you're living in the past.
Yeah.
You know, if you have anxiety, you're living in the future, right? And if you have peace, you're living in the present. And a lot of people live in the past, right?
Yeah.
It's not say you don't want to. There's a lot of wonderful things in the past that you can bring to the deal, and I call them gifts. The hardest times I ever went through made me the person I am today, right where I am. So those are gifts, but that I can bring those in today. And the future, well, the future is kind of a suggestion on a piece of paper, right? And it doesn't exist. And I'm not saying that it's not important. You want to set your goals. You want to set your, things that you need to accomplish, right? But those things are only controllable on today. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we talk about being kind of hyper focused on the day, and we ask ourselves the four questions. You know, who do I want to be? Do I want to be patient? Do I want to be a communicator? Do I want to be, extremely positive today? Or, you ask those questions, and then you say, who's one person I need to contact today? What are my top 3 priorities? And what is one thing that I can do today to move my business forward? Something that's going to be my goal. So that's what we do. And it really takes down, for me personally, I'll tell you, I've been doing this for a while, really takes down my anxiety and really takes down my worry. Because I'm not worried about what's going to happen 2 or 3 days down the road or 4 days down the road. I'm only going to control what I can control and live in the present. And I talked to, another person, they said, wow, geez, I'm always living in the past and the future, never the present. Well, that's the most important because this is what you can control. Right? This is things they can do to build your business in the future and complete your goals. But really, it doesn't exist until it creates for that day. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So
100%.
that's kind of what we do is framing in the day. So, yeah.
So great, solid internal questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then plus, I think, living in the past, you obviously don't want to live there. But I think it's important that you have self-reflection.
I do. I agree.
It's not about going, okay, I should have done that. I should have done this.
Yeah.
It's more like, okay, I'm going to reflect on it. What am I going to do better next time? And then let it stay there.
That's exactly right. You wanted, I was guilty as anybody else living in the past, right?
Right.
But it's now these hard things that I went through are gifts. But yeah, why did I have to go through it? Instead of asking why.
Yeah.
Asking, what did I learn from it? What did I grow from it? What can I do better? So when this situation comes up the next time, like the 2008 mortgage meltdown, a lot of people had challenges in situations, right? A lot of foreclosures, a lot of this, some of it was out of their control. But you learn from that, and their lives were probably a little bit better after going through that experience because they probably rebuilt, right?
Right.
And they learned from that. And so can't live in the past, but you can certainly learn from it. And it's bringing that into today. Wow. What you learn in the past, you can bring in today, right? And what lesson did you learn from yesterday that you can bring in today, right? That you can move forward. So it's a stepping stone, but it's like a frame. We're the old movie theater guys, right? So they used to have the film, right?
Yeah.
So they make a frame at a time. It makes a picture. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You start in the morning with the foundation of questions, and you build your picture for the day, right?
Yep.
But you set your attitude, you set your intention, in how you're going to operate. So
And staying focused.
Staying focused, yeah.
Another part of framing.
Yeah, the framing of the day is, sometimes you might wake up and say, I want to be focused and intentional in my day. I want to be really focused and intentional, lead the distractions out, and it's helped. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a really big deal. I love that. Yeah, it's just been a big help for me. And then we frame the morning, and then I do have a little 4-question afternoon, and then in the evening too. Yeah. So at 3:00, I'll turn around and say, what pulled me away? What was I working from pressure or purpose? And then at the end of the day, it's like, hey, did I have a win today? Yeah, here was the win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it comes back to consistency.
Yes.
Well,
consistency is huge. Yeah. I have a little acronym. It's kind of a stupid acronym, but it's called SIC squared, and it stands for schedule, implement, commit, and stay consistent. So I schedule my morning time all the time. I don't waver from that. It's non-negotiable, right? So, and I'm going to implement it every morning, right? As and then I'm going to stay committed to it and consistent with it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, you talk about consistent. What does that look like in a busy, high-pressure business like yours? Because your business is a high-pressure business.
It is a high-pressure business. We're dealing with It could be a refinance boom coming up at any point, potentially.
Yeah.
And it's being on top of things and consistent with the products and services that we're delivering, consistent with the title commitments that we're pulling, within 2 to 3 business days.
Yeah.
Staying consistent with the how we present at the table. Staying consistent with our internal closures, communicating with our customers, the realtors, the loan officers, the consumers, consistency with the policies that we're putting out there, right? So consistency is huge. Let me. I used to work for Applebee's, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing tremendous about Applebee's, in my opinion, man, they're consistent. I go in there and I have that Bourbon Street steak, and it's the same every time I get it. They had a big thing when I worked there. It's just they had the pictures of the dishes, and you stayed consistent with it, right? Yeah. So that's what we strive to be, consistent, so people get the same product and the consistency with it.
That's huge.
Yeah,
That's
it is huge.
And it comes down to processes.
Yeah, have you ever been to a restaurant or someplace where one meal was great, the other, and then it wasn't great, and then you got this, and it was consistency was all. There was no consistency. It was all over the place.
Yeah.
More than likely, you probably won't go back to that restaurant. Right?
Well, those restaurants really don't last very long.
Exactly.
Either,
you and I, we're talking. Yeah. We're the restaurant industry because we were in it, right? Yep. You had to have the consistency. Same with business. You got to stay. If you're going to do anything, you got to stay consistent with who you are, what you do, and the value that you bring out to your people.
Well, one of the
customers.
One of the biggest restaurant brands out there that has consistency. One of the biggest, McDonald's, right?
Yeah, McDonald's.
And even though it's not the best hamburger in the world, you know what that hamburger you're getting is, and you know exactly how that hamburger is going to taste. And you can buy one here in Minnesota. It's going to be the same as the one out in California.
And and that's the systems you have.
Yeah,
that's the systems that they have. They have a particular system that's turnkey that's going to produce the same product. Yeah. And you should be doing that as a loan officer, as a realtor. You should have your systems in place. We have our systems in place. If we have the same systems in place that we're doing the same things, we're going to stay consistent throughout that. If you get somebody that's going willy-nilly, like at McDonald's, hey, I'll do it my way, right? And we can do it over. I'm not going to put the 3 or 4 pickles that are, then somebody's going to get that burger and go,
what the heck?
What's going on?
This doesn't feel right.
So that's why consistency, or the systems, are key in the consistency of producing that product or service.
And that's for any industry.
For any industry.
Business.
Any industry.
Anything you're doing is huge.
That's how, automakers, they got to stay consistent. With the automakers, they were getting a lot of callbacks and all this stuff, but they started figuring out it's the front end. It's the quality control on the front end that will prevent you from having to spend a lot of money on the back end, right? Yeah. And then you got a satisfied customer.
Yep.
So, it's just the way you do business,
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Consistency is huge.
It's huge.
Mondays with Mike Twin Sea Tales podcast. We're staying consistent.
Yep.
That's what we want to be doing. That's a lot to digest right now.
Yeah, I
think we've had some good stuff.
Not to cut you off, but we like to talk, right?
We do.
You and I, we get to,
We're going to take it to a break right now, and we'll be back. Ancona Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that I proudly support, delivers more than just nutritious meals to seniors in our community. They deliver connection, care, and peace of mind. Their volunteers don't just drop off food. They check in, share a smile, and ensure our neighbors know they're not forgotten. I know because I am one of those volunteer drivers. Help us keep serving those who need it most. Visit mowanocca.org to volunteer, donate, or learn more about Ancona Meals on Wheels, nourishing bodies and spirits one meal at a time. Ever walk into a house and flip a switch and have no idea what it actually does? Like, is it a light, an outlet, or something in the garage? Nobody knows. Or what about when you plug in something into an outlet and it just slowly falls out like it's giving up on life? Or worse, the outlet just doesn't work at all. Well, we see that stuff every day. At Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, we help homeowners take care of those small electrical issues before they turn into bigger problems. Loose outlets, dead plugs, mystery switches, we'll track it down, fix it right, and make your home actually work the way it's supposed to. So if something feels off electrically, it probably is. Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, built here, stays here, feel the difference. If you're enjoying this show, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button right now. It seriously helps us reach more amazing people like Mike Elwell here and in the Twin Cities and beyond. And if you're feeling a little extra generous, if you drop us a rating or a review, it only takes a minute, but it makes a huge difference in helping new listeners discover what Twin Sea Tales podcast is all about. That's how our community grows. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Twin Sea Tales for behind-the-scenes moments and episode updates, special announcements, and all the fun stuff you don't get to see on the mic. We appreciate you more than you know. And remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong on Twin Sea Tales podcast. And now we are at the portion of our podcast where we have some pictures.
Oh,
and
boy.
Yeah. And the first one I have for you is this is you and your family.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a great picture there.
So Alex in the middle.
Yeah, Alex in the middle there. He couldn't have been more than, he was probably getting to be 14, 15 years of age there. Yeah, that's my wife, Gina.
And how old is he now?
He's 21. He's going to be 22 in June. Yep.
Cool.
Alec is his name. Yep.
And how did you and Gina meet?
Well, that's a great story. It goes back to the restaurant industry. She started serving at Totino's Italian Kitchen in Northeast Minneapolis when she was 14.
Yeah.
So, I've knew Gina, but going in and out of there and stuff was younger, but we didn't talk much or whatever, and stuff like that. So, but then when I went down there, I started a deli off of Totino's in 1992. Oh. When I was 22 years of age, it was called the Rose of Italy Italian Deli. I did that for 3 years. I'd owned that. And then when I came back after that, that's when we started talking. And then we connected and ended up getting married in 97. So
a lot of matchmaking in the restaurant industry. That's all I know.
Yep. That's awesome. That's a great picture. Yeah, that's awesome.
I love a family picture.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know this, but you have a twin brother.
I do.
And
there we go. That's my twin brother, Mark. Yeah.
Do you always say you're the better looking one?
I am. Of course I am. That's exactly that's factual, actually. So, we're 5 minutes apart. I'm the older brother. So he actually used to work for Ancona Title with me for about 10 years, and then he decided to. Funny it is, he's a loan officer now over at Blaze.
So you guys kind of reversed. He started
So he was actually a loan officer back in the 90s.
Okay.
And then, he was in the restaurant industry and stuff, and then I was able to coax him to come over to the title side of things for a while, and then he wanted to try back the origination piece again, so he's with Blaze. Yeah, that's a picture there.
Is he an extrovert or an introvert?
He's an extrovert.
Is he?
Yeah.
What does he think about, because you're doing these seminars and stuff like that. What does he think about that?
Oh, I think he's supportive. He loves it. Yeah, I mean, he was there for a lot of the seminars I did for Ancona Title. So we'd go out and do the power question based planning, selling, and all that stuff in front of loan officers and realtors. Yeah, he liked it. I think. Yeah, he was very supportive of it.
Well, I've been to a couple of your seminars for business owners.
Yes.
So that was really cool.
Yeah, that was the power question based planning, and we do those periodically and host those. Anybody can attend those. By the way, you don't have to be a realtor and loan officer to come to it. It's a great networking event, and you want to know because a business plan, like I always say, a business plan is not what you do; it's who you are and what you do well and the value that you bring. That's what the business plan is about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
My brother, he's great. Yeah.
And you look a lot like each other.
Yeah. We're 5 minutes apart. So he's the youngest by technicality. He came on last. So.
Do you have like a special hold over him because of that? Do you make him call you your older brother?
No. Yeah, it's funny. Oh, you gotta look at that picture. Yeah, that's awesome.
Was this right after you got college?
No, this was not too long ago. Actually, this was a couple years ago. I think it was for Easter or something like that. Okay. So it was only 2 years ago.
Well, you rock that pink shirt really well.
That's thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's more salmon than anything else, but hey, no, pink I'll take. I used to wear pink all the time, so
I just want to get this picture because you're such a culinary chef, right? Like this is you and a charcuterie board.
I made that charcuterie board. Yes, I put it together, and I was for. I think that was for a family gathering, and I'm like, you know what? Tired of bringing the same old stuff all the time. I'm gonna expand my culinary. Experience out to a charcuterie board. So there you go. That's pretty good. I think there's another picture out there, me of carving a turkey too. But that's.
Do you miss the restaurant business?
I miss the restaurant business.
Do
Yeah,
you?
I always loved it. Yeah, I had a huge passion for it. I love cooking. I love the restaurant business because the best thing I love about it is the energy and the high. I loved being in the weeds.
Yeah.
That was so awesome on a Saturday night when I had 40 people deep waiting for a table. Oh,
Okay.
God, I love that. That was awesome. Peer pressure, moving people around where they needed to be. I used to run the floor, but I used to cook. I used to do a lot of things in the restaurant industry. So
I have to admit, I hated it when I was growing up in that business, and I just I was so glad, and I guess I was kind of blessed. My dad owned a bar, so I worked the bar after I was 19 years old.
Yeah,
but man, I do miss it because. Now I've gotten back to because I don't do it anymore every day, right? Because I would hate to cook.
Yeah.
Back then, I'm like, oh, geez, I just hated cooking, right? Now I like it. I mean, I actually like to cook for my team on a big griddle,
I just miss what I miss about Totino's is the connection that I had there with everybody. People worked at Totino's for a long time, so they never left. And it was a real family. So we used to go out to Rowan's after and Elsie's, and it was a great family. That's what I miss the most. There was a lot of good people that worked at that restaurant for many years, and I kind of miss that. That's what I miss. I miss going in the morning and prepping and then running. I miss the restaurant.
And service industry people are really service people. They really care about people. That's why they're in it.
I'll tell you at Ancona Title, Chris Brown, the former owner, Ryan Brown now owns the company, but he used to hire a lot of restaurant people because we know how to deal with customers. We're service oriented. We know how to handle pressure. Yeah. I mean, if you've ever been a pressure cooker on a Saturday night when everything was going down, there was no quit. You couldn't quit. And so pressure, sales, customer service. There's a lot of things that happen in the restaurant industry that translates in the real world, in real life, because there's nothing better than that's those Saturday and Friday nights. Yeah, I love it.
Although I got a great Bennigan's story.
Yeah,
for you about
Bennigan's.
That where you couldn't stop because I bartended at Bennigan's. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I bartended at Bennigan's on 394. Wow. It was Highway 12 back then.
Oh yeah.
But I remember coming up to the bar, and they got busy in the bar and the dining room because Bennigan's was a pretty hopping restaurant in the mid-'80s. And I remember walking up, and I'm showing up for my shift for the dance floor, right? Because they had the dance loft club upstairs. Yep. And I remember a manager sitting outside. It was middle of dinner rush. It's 7 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday night. And he turns to me as I'm walking up because I'm showing up for my bartending shift upstairs. And he's like, I wouldn't go in there if I were you. It's just crazy nuts. And he's out there smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, I've experienced that too. Oh yeah.
He had just lost it, right?
Oh yeah. It's that's just I've had people walk out and it's a pressure cooker. That's funny.
And this last picture, you're gonna dig it. Where did you get that haircut?
Oh, yeah, that's so holy moly. I must have been 21 there. I was 21 there.
That is
21 or 22.
That
I was visiting a friend of mine down in Georgia.
Okay.
And that was a good mullet. I used to be in a band, a rock band, back in the day called Laissez-Faire. Some people, we used to record music all the time and we used to travel. So that was my rock and lock hairs in my Now I'm going to ask if you got a tissue around here because I'm going to cry with all that beautiful hair. Wow!
I know
is look at the front bang on there too.
Yes,
that was perfect. Look at that was perfect. I used to get that thing permed in. That was a lot of Aquanet that used to hold that thing in place. Beautiful picture there.
That was when the jerry curls were huge
Oh
too.
my gosh, yeah, that was. Boy, I wish I had a quarter of that hair back on the top of my forehead there. That would be great. What a great picture that
and
was.
that's
I remember
where the term "business in the front, party in the back" came from, wasn't it?
Yeah, business in the front and party in the back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, I was just coming out of the old '80s mullet to the grunge rock. Yeah, that was just stuff.
Grunge
So
was huge.
I started sorting it up in the hair and stuff like that in the '90s. But God, I forgot about that picture. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Man.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Stepping back in time, if you can run into that young man, what advice would you give him what you know now?
Oh, what I know now, don't sweat the small stuff, Siri. I mean, people say that a lot. But what I would tell them is where you're at right now is a small fraction of your life. It's not going to be that way forever. As we thought, when I was 21, 22, I always thought, I'm stuck here. This is my life. This is what it's going to be. And it's not. And it's like, it's just a small microcosm of your life to be.
Yeah.
So if I could go back and tell my 21-year-old, 22-year-old self, everything's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna always work out. And you know what? It's don't sweat it. It's gonna be okay. Just it'll be fine. Don't sweat the small stuff and don't panic and don't get so anxiety about the future because it'll work out. Yeah, if I could go back and tell myself that.
Yeah.
You're okay, man. Everything's gonna be fine.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's that never quit attitude.
Yeah.
Because if you feel like everything's coming down and you want to quit, where did I hear this? Like the success formula really is like 1% like talent,
Yep.
1% like luck,
Yep.
and 98% never quit.
Yeah, never quit.
That's how you succeed.
Yeah, that's boy. I think I was looking at the camera, going. I wish I could go back to high school and back to 1987 again. No, just
Although
kidding.
you know what, the only thing you're missing there is
Yeah.
I don't know if you did that, but I used to try and rock a mesh cut
Oh.
T-shirt, like where you can see almost everything, and like the mesh was a 1/4 inch, right, and you could flex your muscle.
Oh
and,
yeah, yeah.
That's the only thing you're missing.
Yep, I didn't. I was more. Yeah, I didn't quite get into that. That was probably this scrawny little kid back then. But well, that brings back some good memories. Yeah, that's awesome.
Who would you like to see in this podcast, and why?
Yeah, anybody? Anybody?
We talked
in the past and
yes,
everything.
past,
yeah,
present.
Yep. I would love to see on this podcast. I would love to see a couple podcasts of my grandparents, Jim and Rose Totino. I would love to see that because when they were going through the restaurant and then they had Totino's Italian Kitchen, I was a young man or a young boy at the time when they had the Totino's Finer Foods, and so. I would love to have them because if I could go what I know now and have them, on that podcast, man, I'd have a lot of questions on the business aspect and how they did it together and how they created the frozen pizza business. Just about philosophy and business. I do have a paper my grandmother wrote with her philosophies on it, so I have that. But when you're 20. 18, 19.
Yeah.
You just don't. I mean, you
don't think
grew
about
up
it.
in that bubble, so you really didn't understand how an important piece of that was to the Twin Cities community. I mean, I've got cousins that were in California and say, "Yeah, we just had a Totino's Pizza."
Yeah.
Knowing now what an impact it made in the Twin Cities area and especially obviously for women in business too. And she was the first vice president, I think, in Pillsbury.
Yeah.
Maybe the frozen division. But boy, I would love to know in more detail about how they went through that restaurant business and how they made it, 1951 to the corporate business.
Yeah.
I know the story, but I'd have questions on business philosophy and
what they were thinking at the time.
Yeah.
Some was probably luck, but a lot of it was hard work and just saying, "I'm never quitting. I'm not going to quit."
Yep. That would be awesome. Yeah.
I got a good question for you, and this is kind of an impromptu question.
Sure.
I know my dad drove for Geno's, like from here to Duluth.
Yes.
And I think Geno's ended up merging with Totino's.
That is
somehow,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Totino's bought them.
That's what I understand. Yeah, I don't know the whole. I think from what I understand, the Geno's, they had the pizza rolls. Right?
Yes.
And then Totino's had
That's
the
what I was-
pizza, and then from what I understand, because there was a story on History Channel about my grandparents,
Okay.
the story of
Yeah.
the frozen industry, and well, let's just say my grandmother and Gino Bellucci were very competitive.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the Gino's, the Totino's filling of the pizzas in the crust of what Gino's made.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, but they combined together. But that's
Yeah.
what it is, and they combined it under, I believe, one of the Totino's.
Yeah,
name,
because
so.
I think my dad actually drove a truck for
Gino's.
Gino's.
Yep.
Like for a short time from here to Duluth.
Yep.
Like right after he got out of the U.S. military.
Yep.
It was like 1963 or something like that. So it's interesting.
Yeah, they were running up there in Duluth in 1963 and 64. That's when they
Yeah.
had Totino's Finer Foods, and I think it started, if my memory serves me right, is out in St. Louis Park, and then
Okay.
they migrated over to Fridley, and they had a plant there in Fridley, Totino's plant in Fridley.
But it was part of that Gino's mix.
Well, that
right?
was the Totino's, and then the Gino's was on its own stuff. Can't remember the time that they kind
Yeah.
of mixed together. Maybe it was in the last 10, 15 years or so, but I
I
guess I
want
don't
to
know
say
that.
my dad's, but
Yeah.
too bad my dad's passed. He might
Yeah.
have said Totino's, but for some reason,
Yeah,
it was
it was
But
the,
he was driving here to Duluth. I know that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I knew it was one of those. So
yeah.
we have a lot of tie-in in our
I
families
think so.
here.
Restaurant, Gino's, Totino's.
Yeah, and my dad's driving truck for Gino's. My dad actually waited tables at the Curtis Hotel
Oh,
back in the because they demolitioned the Curtis Hotel back in like 1974 or something like
74,
that.
yeah.
We were really young, but
yeah. I
craziness. And
Yeah.
the Nankin, my dad.
Oh, the
worked
Nankin.
for them
Oh.
for a short
Oh,
time.
yeah, the
as a
Nankin.
waiter. So
yeah, they had the
interesting.
Wanderers there. The Wandering
Yes,
Punch.
yes, everybody remembers that.
Not saying that I partake in those anytime soon, but I can either confirm or deny those. That story.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I would love to get Rose Totino on.
That would, because
Yeah,
her
that would
faith
be
was
awesome.
the strongest piece of that, and,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of great stories behind that. But knowing myself now at my age at 56, I would love to learn but what was the corporate like? I mean, think about that. That was in the 60s and 70s, and she was a woman in business, and
Yeah.
you know how she was a tough cookie.
And women in business was very poo-pooed upon.
Right,
Like,
exactly. And
go
so
get me my coffee if
she
you're
was a
sitting in a boardroom.
strong woman, and she
Yeah.
she let it known that she was very stern but really good business sense.
Did you guys ever know the people from Napoli's Cafe?
I personally know, not from me, but I'm sure my grandmother ran. She knew all the
'Cause-
Italians, that had the restaurants and stuff.
Yeah, I think they all kind of know
Marinos
each other,
and,
especially all that in that
Yes.
time frame.
Yep.
Because my brother-in-law, actually, Nancy and Paul Battaglia.
Oh yeah.
Paul Battaglia's family owned like Napoli's.
Yeah, well, I'm sure my grandparents knew.
Probably
yeah,
knew
they
that.
knew all the people that owned the restaurants, around town, and
Especially the Italian
Northeast
restaurants.
Italian restaurants, yeah.
It's almost like the Chinese community too.
Yep,
like
it is.
every Chinese restaurant back in the 60s and 70s, they kind of knew each other.
Well, yeah, and,
They were friendly competitors, but they were,
right.
Yeah. And back in the 70s and 80s, there was a chow mein house every corner practically.
Italian, and down in Northeast Minneapolis. You gotta
Yeah.
say Northeast with the D, Northeast,
Yeah.
They had a whole community down there.
Yeah.
About I think was right around Mount Carmel and that area and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
They lived in the
and if you
Northeast
go
area.
a little further south on that northeast side over off of Central there,
Mm-hmm.
there was that Italian market.
Yeah, the Delmonico.
Delmonico,
brothers.
yeah,
Delmonico
yeah.
brothers had that
Well,
for years. Yeah.
St. Paul was huge too for the
St. Paul.
Italian market because
Yeah.
your Russos and
Cassettas and that stuff.
Cassettas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that the families knew each other, what they were doing and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the Roans, the bar and restaurant
Yeah.
at Roans, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of connection there.
Yeah.
So
Got a lot of great Italian hockey players too.
yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Well, before we go,
Yes.
I've got some parting gifts for you.
Oh, wow.
As always, you get a nice little trophy.
Oh,
Thank you for being
that's-
amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's
And-
fantastic.
We always give you a Twin Sea Tales podcast mug and Twin
Wow.
Sea Heating and Air.
Look at that. And I love coffee cups. So this will be used tomorrow morning. When I'm doing my
Fantastic.
framing of the day in the morning, I'm going to have it with
Oh.
Twin Cities Heating and Air.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Oh,
Little box of fortune cookies from one restaurant lover to another.
my fortune's in here, right? All right,
Your
that's
fortune
beautiful.
is in there.
I love
You
that. That's a
bet.
great idea.
You
That's
bet.
wonderful.
And I know how much you are into baseball because I know that's something that you do with your son every once in a while.
Yeah,
Go to
we
some
love
games
playing baseball together.
and then going to the games.
Yep.
So, pair of Saints tickets for
Whoa.
the Saints coming up on a Friday game, the fireworks night. So you take your wife or your
Wow.
so yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Look at that. Yeah. I think Alex is gonna love this one. He loves the baseball stuff. So
And
that'd be
the
great.
Saints have been kind of fun to watch lately because it's all the guys
this is
that are
great.
gonna move
Oh,
up and
this would
down
be
from
fun.
the Twins. So.
Yeah, that's the AAA club now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's the guys that are they're gonna one step lower, or
The
rehab.
one,
Yep.
the one thing I noticed that between that and like 4 years ago when the Twins actually when they became the AAA,
Yep.
it was kind of fun when they were like just an independent team.
Right.
But man, you could tell the difference in the training, and there's less accessibility to
Yep.
the players now.
Oh yeah.
Because back in the day when we were going back at the old Midway, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have the the picnic, the season ticket holder picnic, and the players would come out and have lunch with everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah, they don't do that this day and age.
No,
like you look on the field, even nowadays. Like back then, it's like he's making a couple $1,000s for the summer. He's making a few $1,000s. Now it's like 3 million, 2 million. You're just counting the contracts out
Especially
there.
when they're on rehab assignment, they have to go back down and rehab and stuff. Yeah, it's a little more higher level now when you get one below the major league.
But they're
that's
fun.
all right. That's fine. I've been out there in the AAA stuff. It was great baseball. It was fun to see some of the upcoming players. So thank you.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm truly grateful for that. I appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Well, I can't thank you enough, and being on the show, Mike. If you want to learn more about Mike Elwell, you can go to his Facebook page, Mike Elwell, or Ancona Title. That's where I catch some of his Monday mornings with Mike on Facebook. And as we roll out of here, I want to say thank you to Chris Hocking for the use of his song "Thanks," with no pun intended. This podcast is powered by Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. And until the next podcast, remember, you can't go wrong with Wymond Wong on Twin City Heels Podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this song to say thank you for the breath that I just took, for the life my son will lead. I hope when you look down from heaven, that you are